Hello and welcome back to Bicycle Legs and another edition of Bicycle Legs Discovers Rush. And today my special guest is Todd Evans. You may know him from the Contrarians or Grant's Rock Warehaus or a dozen other channels that he's appeared on.
Rushfans, yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining me today, Todd.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah. So Todd has recommended another Rush album for me. I'll get Todd to, if you can fill us in on the album that you've chosen for me, a little bit of the background behind that album, and particularly why you chose this album for me rather than any other Rush album.
Okay, Power Windows is what I chose, and I didn't pull my vinyl out, but I've got the remastered CD, and I've also got this original American CD, and it came out in 1985. It's produced by Peter Collins, and it came out after this album, and it's part of, well, I don't really think this is a thing, but some people consider this era of Rush the synth era, although there was synth before it and there was synth after it. But it kind of, the synth era kind of starts with this one and then goes to Power Windows and then continues with this one, Hold Your Fire, which came out after. Produced by Peter Collins. It was the first Rush album to be produced by Peter Collins, and a lot of technology on this album. And very interesting, a little note about it is the video for Mystic Rhythms was directed by Devo's Gerald V. Casal, which is
there you go.
Very interesting, very cool video, very much of its time, 1985. But I chose this album because I think that it is the peak. Well, to say it's the peak sort of undermines this one, which I also love. But I think I'm going to go ahead and say it's the peak of their songwriting and arrangement. What's the word I'm looking for? Mastering. I think that's where they really mastered the art of doing a complicated complicated Rush compositions. And you know, they kind of evolved from here after they did Hold Your Fire. You know, they went into Presto and Roll the Bones, which are stripped back a little bit, and then they stripped back some more and got heavier. And but I particularly love this album because, like I said, I consider it to be the peak of my favorite kind of Rush music. And it was interesting for me growing up with Rush because I heard Rush for the first time just before Power Windows came out. So I heard just before Permanent Waves came out. So I heard the early incarnation of Rush, and then Permanent Waves came out, and Moving Pictures after it. And I started out as a prog fan, and then I was just starting to listen to Devo and the Police and the B-52s. So I was just like, oh, Rush is changing right along with me. And so when it got to Power Windows, I was just like, wow, this is exactly what I want out of this band. And so that's why I chose it.
Excellent. No, well, I really enjoyed listening to this album. So we'll go through it track by track as we've done on other programs, and I'll give my thoughts on each track, and then you can tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the tracks, where you agree with me, where you think maybe, you know, further listening might bring out something else, that sort of thing. So the first song is The Big Money, and the very first thing that came to mind when I was listening to this song is that in the first two shows that I did with Grant on Permanent Waves and with Peter on Hold Your Fire, they both talked about the influence of the Police on Rush. And on those two albums, like, I thought, yeah, maybe, kinda, I don't know. But when I heard this song, it really hit me. Like, yeah, I can hear the Police in this song, really, and throughout this album too. Yeah, I mean, really great Alex Lifeson solo on this song. Geddy Lee's bass is absolutely thundering throughout. It's real sort of dung, 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 really like that. They're really showing their chops on this first song. I think probably more even so than they do on the rest of the album. Although, yeah, the playing throughout is absolutely breathtakingly good. And the lyric, I said, seems to be about sort of the downsides of capitalism and that sort of thing. So I've definitely been enjoying Neil Peart's lyrics, listening to all of these albums so far. I mentioned on the other shows that, he doesn't write about trivial things.
No. Yeah, that's true. Well, these are some of my favorite Neil Peart lyrics on this album, and the one after it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the big money for me in 1985 when this came out, that was kind of the peak of things coming out, singles coming out before albums, and videos of the lead-off single coming out before albums.
Yeah.
So the first I ever heard the big money was on MTV when they showed the video. And it was the world premiere video, and and it was like an animation of the world spinning, and it was like a big deal. And then the big money plays, and the great thing about this song is that it starts with such a bang. There are so many good examples of a track on the first track on a Rush album being an excellent first track, and for me, the big money is the best of those. It really hits you with a bang. It's right from the start. And I remember being really excited about it because of, for a lot of things about what's happening in the arrangement, but also that in the little section, instrumental section in the middle, there's Neil Peart plays like a woodblock sound, but I'm pretty sure it's like an electronically triggered woodblock sound. But we were just like, that he used those a lot in the A Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres era. So when we heard that, we were like, the woodblocks are back. We were really excited. But yeah, it's excellent first track, and I think you pretty much nailed it. I mean, that's pretty much the main main takeaways from the track.
Fair enough. Well, the next song is Grand Designs. And again, the lyric on this one seems to be about sort of like the corruption of power and money. I said it was slightly more atmospheric than the first track, but still has that sort of cool combination of complex but catchy, which is a recurring theme for me throughout this album. And so far, I said so far, with the first couple of tracks, I like the balance between the keys and the guitar on this album a little bit better than I did on Hold Your Fire. On Hold Your Fire, I think they leaned a little too much into the sort of 80s sounding synths and that sort of thing. Whereas here, I think the balance is a little more to my taste. So yeah, another really good song though.
Yeah, Grand Designs is funny. I think too many people who get their knickers in a twist about all the synths focus too much on the fact that it starts with sequenced synthesizers. But the fact is that Grand Design really rocks really hard, and it features a lot of really energetic playing by Alex and Geddy and Neil too, and I think that it really is a heavier song than a lot of people give it credit for. And my favorite thing about it is the part at the end just before he says whoa, whoa, and that instrumental thing until the end is just, to me, just joyful. I mean, it's like you want to just stop what you're doing and just jump in the air because it's just really exciting music. And I love at the end where they all play together. They go bent, bent, and all that kind of stuff. That's my favorite, like, progism. And I love when Yes did it on Tormato and Going for the One, and I loved it here. And so yeah, great playing, better song than anybody gives it credit for. One of the most underrated Rush songs, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, a recurring theme for me throughout this album is the balance that they get between doing still very complex music, but making it, sort of quite accessible.
Yeah. This particular format of 4 songs on each side, I think, is the best thing for Rush. And I think that those, having 4 songs of 4 to 6 minutes long on each side is just, those are my favorite albums. They're the ones that are formatted that way. Signals is like that. Grace Under Pressure. And so, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I think it's the perfect balance between prog and
Yeah.
rock and pop.
So the next song is Manhattan Project. Now, obviously the title tells you what this song is about, you know, sort of development of the nuclear bomb and all that sort of thing. I said I like how the sort of moody verse music gives way to a very, again, very police sounding chorus. Yeah, less complex than the first couple of songs, but still I really like this one. And the band plays the band playing on this one is less sort of showy, and it's serving the song better rather than, you know, being again, I don't think so far in the 3 albums that I've listened to, I don't think I could ever accuse Rush of being flashy for the sake of being flashy. When they do complex stuff, it's, you know, for a purpose. It's not just, hey, look how good we are.
Yeah.
But this song isn't so showy. They sort of rein it in and serve the song well, I think.
Yeah, and one of the really cool things about Manhattan Project, I don't know if it's the first Rush song. I'm not absolutely sure whether it's the first Rush song that has a string arrangement. I'm pretty sure it is. But in this era of Rush, where most of the orchestration was synthesizer and pedals and things like that, for it to have a string arrangement was definitely something that was exciting to me and my friends. And the strings were arranged by Ann Dudley, which is cool because she was the it girl as far as string arrangements for that time, 1985. So that was pretty. They were pretty much on the trend there for having her do that. But the string arrangement is fantastic. And like you said, I agree exactly about that. It's definitely serving the song through the whole thing.
Yeah, of course, Ann Dudley, I mean, for those who are not overly aware with her, she did a lot of work with Trevor Horn and The Art of Noise and a lot of other sort of British 80s artists.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of the ZTT stable and that sort of thing. So yeah, great musician.
yeah, and her arrangements are super classy, and just I can't think of a better word to describe them than that.
Yeah.
She really classes up the joint when she shows up.
Yeah. So the last song on side 1 is Marathon. Now, I said that this song has a bit of a 90125 era Yes sound to it, to me, which is definitely a good thing because I love that album. I said the lyrics are a sort of a using marathon running as a metaphor for life. The drums and bass in the middle section, I thought, were really nice and sort of give it a bit of a proggy feel for that part of the song. Again, blending the commercial and the creative really, really well on side 1 of this record. Really enjoy it. And another great guitar solo in this one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, Marathon, I get poked fun at over on Rushfans because Marathon is my favorite Rush song, and I don't ever hesitate to tell people that. But I think Marathon is the absolute best Rush song. It's compositionally and playing wise and arrangement wise. I think that it's the very best. I think it's the greatest bridge pretty much ever. It's so exciting. The music is so exciting, and when that chorus kicks in, I've told this story before, but for anybody who hasn't heard it, when I was in college, me and my roommate and a couple of other guys who were huge Rush fans got together in my room to listen to this album. And when Marathon got to that part where the chorus comes in, and then the key change, that epic key change during the choral part just before the end, and then how it changes back to the original key, that song got over, and we just sat there in silence and just looked at each other, and we were like, what just happened? What was that? And I'll never forget that feeling. And I still get excited about it when I hear it, and it never gets old. Never gets old for me. I think it's the best Rush song. Sorry if that's overstating it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, love the enthusiasm. I thought it was a really good song, and I've loved every song on side one. So, album
That's
gets
great.
off really well. So we get on to side two now, and we start off with the song Territories, which to me, the lyric sounds like it's a song about sort of imperialism versus internationalism, which is a great topic for a song, I think. I think the world music influence on this song I like. It's a little subtler than it is on the Hold Your Fire song, Tai Shan, which Peter and I both thought was a little bit over the top with its sort of, world music
Tai
sound.
Shan's a beautiful song, but if they had just made a couple of decisions differently, I think it would have, people's view of that song would change. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
But yeah, the world music influence is on this song, but it's subtler. It's not so overt. And I think that works well. And again, I feel like the keyboards in this song have that sort of Yes 90125 era sort of feeling for me.
Yeah.
But again, another song I've really enjoyed, and a great way to kick off side two.
Yeah, it's a great a side opener in a different way than The Big Money is a great side opener for side one. It almost makes you feel like it's time to catch your breath after 4 really intense songs on side one. Territories, it sort of feels a little bit more laid back. And I really like the line about let's see, better the pride that resides in being a citizen of the world than the pride that divides when a colorful flag is unfurled. That's really good. And yeah, just a real easy to get into song, very accessible. I remember when this album came out, a lot of people who weren't sure what to make of the first side were like, oh, I like Territories though. So yeah, it's a bit easier to digest.
Yeah. So the next song is Middletown Dreams. And I said with this one, I'm hearing the Police influences again on this one. Lyrics are about sort of everyday people who are, sort of dreaming of something bigger in their lives. But in the end, sort of saying that the everyday lives that they are living are, valid and worthwhile as well. I love the arpeggiated keys riff in the middle of this song. There's a short but really cool guitar solo. To me, maybe not quite as strong as the songs that we've had so far as the first 5 songs, but I still like this song. So yeah.
I think it's you can't lose with that theme. I mean, that's a very relatable theme. Somebody lives somewhere and they're uninspired by their surroundings, and they're uninspired by what's happening in their life. And then, but at the end, he does say, it's understood by every single person who'd be elsewhere if they could. So far, so good. But life's not unpleasant in their little neighborhood. And so I don't know, that kind of gives a little bit of a twist at the end.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of saying with the lyric, that these people are dreaming of something bigger, but that the lyric actually does sort of suggest that the lives that they're actually living are, valid and worthwhile. Yeah. No, I like the lyric on that song a lot. Yeah.
Very easy to relate to.
Yes. So the next song is Emotion Detector, a song about sort of allowing yourself to be emotionally vulnerable, which again, a lovely topic for a song, sort of allowing yourself to be open and vulnerable when you're in a relationship and not put up that guard that, is so easy to try and put up. But the music on this song just doesn't grab me the way that the music on the rest of this album does. Again, I still like it. But for me, there's a little bit of a sag in the middle of side 2. Just
I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
it's a dip, but it's a dip from from right up here down to maybe there. It's not from here to So
right.
And the other thing I noted was we're on the second to last song on the album, and there's still no out and out ballad yet. Because one of the things I've noticed in the 2 previous Rush albums that I've listened to, which were Hold Your Fire and Permanent Waves, was, to me, I'm not yet convinced by the Rush ballad. You know, when I've heard the Rush ballads, they tend to be sort of some of my less favorite songs on the album. So I'm actually happy that this album is mostly up-tempo Rush, because it's
Well,
the
you wouldn't
stuff
be,
I've liked so far.
you're not alone, but you're not
Mm.
alone. One of the things I think is interesting about that, you mentioned that, because Marathon, you know, think about the bridge to Marathon, the lead up to the guitar solo, the instrumental part.
Yeah.
On Hold Your Fire, they did that again. They did a very, very similar thing, but they dropped it in the middle of Mission. They dropped it in the middle of the ballad, which to me elevates. I mean, I already love Mission, but to me elevates it a little bit more. But yeah, you're right, and that's the thing. When Rush does ballads, they don't do them on every album.
Yeah.
They'll skip an album or sometimes two albums. And when you get to like I remember when 1991 when Roll the Bones came out, there's a song on that called Ghost of a Chance. Everybody was like, wow, Rush did a ballad. And it's like, Rush has done ballads before, but there's just not very many of them.
Yeah. And just so my viewers know, I don't have anything against ballads per se. In fact, I love a good ballad. Can be absolutely beautiful. It's just the two or three I've heard from Rush so far haven't convinced me. So I'm just talking about from a Rush perspective specifically. Yeah. The other thing I did say about this song was another great Alex solo on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So my impression of Motion Detector is, again, this is a song that Rush never played live. And one of the things that I love about it is that there are a lot there. Well, I don't know if there's a lot, but I have come across Rush fans that don't like this song. And it starts out very synthy, starts out very 80s, but hidden inside of it is not only a lot of great playing on bass and guitar, but I think the best Alex Lifeson guitar solo. It's the best Alex Lifeson guitar solo from a technical standpoint. I think Mission is the most beautiful Alex solo, but Motion Detector just has a killer solo in it. And you know, there's a lot of talk too during this era of Rush that people say you know, that you know, oh, Alex had to find his way because there were so many keyboards and there wasn't room for him and all this stuff, which I don't agree with at all. I think that these particular kinds of arrangements made him grow and turned him into a better guitarist. But if you listen to Motion Detector with the thought of, okay, what happens if you take Alex out of this song? You wouldn't have much left. He's like a really important part of it. Even though you don't hear him at the beginning, if you took his parts out, you would really miss them.
Yeah.
So I always think that whenever I hear anybody say that they don't like a Motion Detector, you didn't say that, so I'm not talking about you, but when I hear people say that, I always think, oh, well, you might want to hear that, so focus on that solo and then think about what it would be like if you took Alex out of that song and what you'd be left with.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I like a Motion Detector. I think it's way underrated.
For me, you know, on my initial listenings, it's probably my least favorite song on the album, but
it used to be mine.
But that's from a really high base, as I was saying.
Right.
You know, it's still a song I really enjoy. It's just I enjoy the other songs even more. So
yeah.
So the last song is Mystic Rhythms. And I said this is possibly the moodiest song musically on the album, which I really like. It's sort of, you know, a bit more atmospheric Rush, whereas we've had a lot of really sort of up tempo. You know, this isn't down tempo. This is still quite a fast song, but it's definitely moodier than some of the other songs on the album. And I said that moodiness sort of suits the lyric, which is about sort of using rhythms as a form of meditation, which again, great lyric. I really, really like that. And I sort of point out that side 2 for me, it starts and ends on really high notes for me.
Yeah, you know, I totally agree with that.
My 2 favorite songs on side 2 are the first and the last.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Mystic Rhythms, cool thing about that song is that is the part this tour was when, and I think that they might have started this. I should have looked this up. They might have started this on the Grace tour before it, but this is the song that during the tour for Power Windows, Neil had a dual-sided kit. So he had an acoustic kit in front of him, an electric kit behind him, and he would stand up and the kit would spin. And then he would play the electronic set, and he would do it for Mystic Rhythms. And then actually you can see that in the video for Mystic Rhythms. So I like it because of that. It's a great Neil Peart, showcase of playing in a unique style. But it also seems to me to be about, he seems to be inspired by things that he's learning about other places. And so it's kind of like Tai Shan, but not specific. It's more general, Yeah. And so that's that. I feel like this is, it's not the only song where Neil talks about being inspired by something that's of another place.
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful song, and as I say, it's a really good sort of album closer for me. And I'm definitely going to have to go and check out that video, because anything directed by Gerald V. Casale, I always loved. Complete sidetrack here, but I always loved his video clip for Silverchair's song "Freak."
Oh yeah,
I forgot all about that. That video clip is so Devo.
Yeah, and I didn't know that he directed that video until recently, like in the last couple of years. And then when I watched it again, I was like, how did I not figure that out? How did I not know that?
No. Well, I'll definitely have to go to YouTube and give that a watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, my overall sort of feelings on the album is that I really, really liked this one, and I liked it from the very first listen, whereas with Hold Your Fire, it took me a few listens for it to really sort of gel with me. This one sort of hit the spot straight away.
Yeah, well, one of the things I want to mention, if you don't mind, real quick about Hold Your Fire is that they seem to be going in a different direction with a couple of things. Hold Your Fire is the first album that had Neil Peart playing not a Tama set, but a Ludwig set. And there's something about the drum sound on Hold Your Fire that I think really holds it back. And it's not the playing. There's something about the drum sound that doesn't seem to gel all that well with the rest of the band. And so I almost kind of think that the songs on Hold Your Fire are as good as these songs and possibly a little bit better, but there's something about the mix that isn't quite right. That's just my opinion. But
no, I mentioned in that episode that the production seemed,
I remember
not
you saying,
quite to fit, and it's interesting to me that it's Peter Collins on both of them, because I do like the production on this album much better.
Something's different.
But I think, as I said, earlier on, I think they find a really, really good balance between their sort of creativity and their music chops and having a more sort of 80s commercial sound on this album. I think they balance it really, really well, much like Yes did on 90125. I really do find the parallels here between this and 90125, and then Hold Your Fire and Big Generator.
Oh, yeah. When you think about the song Big Generator, you're almost hearing the same kind of a mix that you're hearing on this. Yeah,
exactly.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
And I love that song, but I also know I also recognize its flaws.
Yes. I also noted that Alex seems to play more solos on this album than he does on Hold Your Fire, or at least they cut through more.
Yeah.
And I like that, because I've really been enjoying his playing. I've said on the first two episodes, that I don't know, I had sort of ideas in my head about what Rush were going to be, having not heard them. And I'd had this idea that Alex would be this really showy, shreddy guitar player, and he's not. And I really like that he's not.
Yeah.
And I should say again to my audience, I don't necessarily, dislike all shredding guitar players. I love it. I love Eddie Van Halen. He can do it well, but it has to be done very, very well. Otherwise, it just does sound like a swarm of bumblebees.
Yeah. And one of the biggest complaints about this era is that Alex is starting to use all these effects that make his guitars sound kind of light and airy and atmospheric, but he's playing the power chords also.
Yeah.
It's just whatever you choose to notice.
Yes. I said that for me, side two is better than side one is better than side two. But they're both still really, really good. There's no songs on this album that I sort of didn't like.
Mhm.
I liked them or I loved them, and I highly recommend this album. If you're like me and you haven't really sort of listened to much Rush and you're just discovering the band like I am, I would definitely give this one a thumbs up and say this is right up there for something that I enjoy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Not that it
So
would have been a
thank you.
wrong answer if you had not said that.
Yeah,
But
well, but thank you for recommending this album for me, and
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
for being on the show.
Sure.
So where can people find you if they're looking for you?
Okay, well, I'm not going to be on the Contrarians at any time too soon, but I do plan on appearing on that as well. But I'm going to be on a couple of Rushfans videos discussing particular songs on Presto, the album Presto,
Yep.
and possibly on Roll the Bones as well. And so that'll be coming up. And we're doing some things on Grant's channel. We're about to do a Sisters of Mercy show, and we're going to be talking about the best albums of 2022. And then is it okay for us to mention the show that you're doing about the live album?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You'll get to see Todd and a bunch of other wonderful people from the Contrarians and people you've seen on the channel here already next week, when we'll be doing a show about live albums, specifically artists where our favorite album by them is a live album. So that's going to be next week's show. I'm really, really looking forward. It's going to be the first big panel that I'm having on the channel. So that should be fun, trying to corral everybody and keep order. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So,
and when I
yeah.
saw that topic, I have one that I don't shut up about. And so I was like, oh, I have to do that. So I have to have another opportunity to yap about that album. So so looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have a ton of other content on the channel, and everything is playlisted. So if you go to my playlist tab, you'll find a playlist for this series, Bicyclelegs Discovers Rush. We've got 3 episodes in that one now. If you want to look at some of my studio albums ranked shows, there's a playlist for those. If you want to look at my In Defense Of, just last week we had Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation on the channel, where we were talking about Never Let Me Down by David Bowie. So there's a playlist for those, and so on and so on. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I'm mostly posting albums I happen to be listening to at the time, as well as posting channel updates. On Twitter, I talk about anything and everything, but I am definitely trying to give that more of a music focus.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for having me.